Welcome to From Caving In to Crushing It, the podcast for those who find themselves immersed in adversity and choose to write their story instead of having others write it for them. I'm Deraney, and I'm your host.
Dr. Phil, so good to see you.
Thank you so much, Drew. Same here. Thank you so much for the honor of being on your show.
It's a pleasure having you on. I've learned so much from you in like a 3-week span at our men's group that it's unbelievable. Your wealth of knowledge, and I know it's not just the knowledge; it's your wisdom from your experience, and you're willing to share it with others. You're very welcome. I'm stopping self-sabotage is so close to my heart, and I wanted you on not only because of what you're doing now, more so because of the type of human being you are and that you've faced adversity and you made a conscious decision not to retreat from adversity, and you decided to move forward and made yourself a stronger human being because of what you've gone through. In life, we're taught, and it's no knock on our parents because it's what they were taught, that life is linear, that if we do A plus B plus C, D is going to happen. And it's not true. There's always something that gets in between those letters and kind of derails our straight line course. So if you could think back as far as you can and pick that defining moment or defining moments that made you pause and say to yourself, Phil, there's a better way to live and I'm going to do it differently, and has helped mold you to who you are now.
Interesting. I haven't told this story in a long, long time. It just popped in my head. So I remember I was trying to sleep. One of those nights where you wake up it's like you had about 5 Red Bulls intravenously, and no matter what you do, I mean, you can clean your house twice in an hour,
Absolutely.
So I'm like, I'm getting up and I'm going to go into my study and I'm going to go to work. So I go into my study and I'm looking through my drawers and looking for something, and I come across my 5-year goals that were 5 years prior. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm all psyched, ready to look at each one, and I'm reading each one and off. The last one I got down, I went, I didn't achieve one damn one of these.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, what's wrong with me? That was the first thing. What is wrong with me? Am I a loser? And I started to feel really bad about myself. And I just sat there, and, when you're in the dark and pitch dead silence, things start to come to you.
Yeah. And
something just said to me, you've been lied to. This is not the way to live. Mm-hmm. And there's something that you're here to do. And, I'm thinking, whatever. Right. So I go back and I go on to what I needed to do. And I found myself on this journey to find the one thing that actually caused me not to achieve those goals. It caused me to feel that there was something wrong with me. And from that moment, I started to experience, because I always tell people, be careful what you wish for, because if you're going to find something that no one else in the world is finding, you're going to go through some stuff. And especially if it's on self-sabotage. So I went through a lot of stuff over a 20-year expand, especially more through a 10-year expand.
Right.
And during that process, it allowed me to continue to move forward and to discover what we discovered, and allowed people to help them, not only with myself, with my children and my clients and my patients back then when I used to practice.
Right.
And that's how it really was the pivotal moment that I was supposed to be here further than what I went to school for.
All right. So there's a lot here. So I'm thinking about those 5-year goals that you saw. When you looked at those goals, before you started beating yourself up, were those 5 goals that at that time that you were reading them, ones that you would have wanted to accomplish?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right. Do I remember exactly? We're talking like 30 something years
30
ago.
some odd years ago. Right.
So do I exactly remember? But I, even though I don't remember what was on that list, I remember the feeling that this was achievable, and why wasn't I achieving them?
Okay. So when you went out, you basically learned your purpose in life. You were told where to go, and I now know that feeling for me, so I can empathize with you. What was your next move? Was it diving in to learn what causes self-sabotage, or was it an iterative process before you got to it was a self-sabotage thing?
Yeah, it was to a point of, as I was moving forward into some of the things that was happening, trying to figure out, okay, what do I do? And before that, I was listening to Rowe and Robbins, and I had all the cassette tape programs. Remember
Right.
cassette
Yep.
tapes?
I
That's how
remember
far
cassette
back I
tapes.
get.
Yep.
And realizing that even though I was doing this, why wasn't what they're telling me working?
Right.
And I realized that it was really general information that I had to take in and be specified to me. But because I was so close to it, I couldn't see it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I started meeting people and other things. And I met this one woman, and I talk about her in my book, Emily Knight, where she was very more spiritual, and I was very more, very structured, and this is the way it goes. And during the process, we started to look at life and the different steps that nature uses to come back from her storms. And then about a few years later, we split up after doing some seminars. She went her way, I went my way, and I kept on getting download of information of, oh, this is this, try this, and coming up with a very simplistic, complex system that when you use it, it's so simple, I couldn't believe it. So that's what happened. It was just a little bit of this, and then going on YouTube and finding something there, and then watching TV, and something would spark me in my brain. And then some things, 2:00 in the morning, I would start getting a download. I would go into my office and I would just like type. And then over 30 years, it took me 30 years to really develop all the stuff that no one else has.
Wow.
To really figure this out. And I went through a lot, but it was there for a reason, because if I didn't go through all the stuff that I went through, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now.
No, very true. Very true. So obviously your experience with researching self-sabotage is much more expansive than mine. I've been doing it for just the last 3 or 4 years, realizing that I'm addicted to self-sabotage, and I'm working on breaking it. I'm gonna hit the QR code after on your thing so I can take a look at the video. But I mean, in what I've learned, people are prone to slippage, where in a matter of milliseconds, you can slip back into the self-sabotage thing. Do people find that with your antidote?
And it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
See, that's amazing.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
You will never, ever, ever get rid of self-sabotage.
True.
You will never, ever, ever get rid of fear.
Right.
It's your protective measurement. That's what it is. So what we were able to discover was what we call the inborn sabotaging trait. It's a trait that you're born with that helps you protect yourself from the very success that you want. Right. Because when you want that goal, it's subconsciously too painful to get there or to obtain it and sustain it. So we do what we need to do to offset it. So when I tell people there is nothing wrong with you, you're not an idiot, you're not a loser, your kids are not lazy, they're just all in protection. And the reason why you have that conflict is you're both are protecting each other from each other. Right. It's not that you hate each other. Well, some people do, but the majority of us don't hate the person. We just hate what they're doing, but we love them, but we're protecting ourselves at that moment. Right. And over 30 years, when I found this, I went, this is too simple. There is no way. So I went out to try to disprove it. And over 30 years, researching thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people from all walks of life and ages, from children to 85-year-olds to 9-year-olds, we were able to prove it, but also found a way to switch it off instantly, and it works 100% of the time. And that's what we call the antidote. So when you use the antidote, which is the exact opposite to the sabotaging trait, it's impossible to sabotage yourself. We prove that. So everything is in you. You're the mass murderer. You're the loving person. You're the ugly person. You're the beautiful person. You're the lazy person. You're the energetic person. Everything is within you. There is no such thing as lack. It is up to you what you want to tap into to show yourself and the world.
So question, this trait, is it located in the amygdala of the brain? Because I know the amygdala is what would, stops us from, risk taking and stuff.
So there's only 3 inborn sabotaging. So let me go back a little bit.
Yeah.
So what I was able to do was find out there's actually only 3 basic traits that make up who we are. We call it the director trait, the supplier trait, and the communicator trait, because there's only 3 things we do. We direct, supply, and communicate. That is it.
Okay.
Once I realized that, because I was able to show how the galaxies as well as the atoms have the same principles. Okay. Once I realized that, then I found to place them in a three positions. We call it your dominant trait, which is your superpower.
Okay.
Then a mediator trait, which is the bridge between the dominant trait and what we call the inborn sabotaging trait, or the saboteur.
Okay.
That sequence is what you're born with. Now, with DISC and Myers-Briggs and all the other tests, you have to take them probably twice a year because things change. This never changes. We have found that this is what you're born with. So there are only 6 sequences of human behavior. So there's only 6 people in the world. So when I know your sequence, I can tell you everything about you and never meet you. If you have a child or a significant other, I can ask you a couple of questions, tell you everything about them, and then tell you how you two interact and never ask you a question. That's how much of a scientific basis of where we got this from. And it always works. It never fails.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So obviously the benefits to people who utilize this antidote would be what, more of a growth mindset than a fixed mindset?
So what we found is 67% of the people don't need mindset.
Okay, interesting.
They need something else. So each saboteur needs something. One needs the mindset, the other needs more what we call the feel set, the other needs more what we call heart set.
Okay.
And that's why I talk to so many people going, oh my God, I've been trying with mindset, and it doesn't work. And I said, yeah, because you have too much of it. And that's your superpower. So what people use this for, from business owners, executives, entrepreneurs, from children to married, we've helped save marriages, we've helped child-patient relationship, business partner relationship, explosions of business for a person's business or their income, and helping low-performing employees to higher performers, increasing their sales. Because when a person tries to sell and they don't close, it's their inborn sabotaging trait protecting them, because it's more painful to close.
Right.
So imagine knowing, do you have children?
Yeah, I have 3.
Okay, imagine knowing each of your child's sequence. You will now know exactly how to support them in the way they need to be supported, not in the way you think they need to be supported, which is really what you need. So we had a manager one time come up to me. We were doing when we were doing a workshop. He says, my kid's always upstairs playing video games. We can't get them downstairs to interact with the family. So he did the workshop. He understood what his sequences and everything else. And I said, okay, I'm going to ask you a few questions. We ascertained his son's sequence. Within a week, he calls me, he says, my son is downstairs interacting with the family, because what he realized, he was the one pushing his son back in the room. His son was a particular sequence, so he was making fun of him because that's how he grew up. But it was backfiring. As soon as he was doing exactly what I was telling him to do, his son was coming back, and within 2 months, their relationship skyrocketed. Then he realized his business, he was doing the same thing, because your business and your professional life and your personal life are the same. So when you use your saboteur, both are affected. And when you use your antidote, both are affected. So his business increased, his relationship with his clients, as well as his employees, increased as well. So that's just one of the things that we help with.
Wow. So 2 things came to mind for me. You know how people tell us to have that work-life balance, which I don't believe in that, because like what you said, it's 24 hours in a day, pretend we're sleeping for 8, then you got the balance of those 16 hours. Work and life, like you said, what I usually say is, like, people have the same strength, and some, for some reason, when they cross the path from home to work, they stop using the strength. It's probably the saboteur piece, because I've seen people I used to work in healthcare. I used to, you have these physicians who would play the power trip, and then you learn that at home, they don't wear the pants at home. So you're like, interesting. They can bring the strength here and not there. So you've kind of found a way where you don't need to you can't separate it. They're the same.
Right. There are. And it's just where people will show that they'll use their antidote more, let's say, in their business wise, but not in their personal life, and vice versa.
All right.
Because here's the case. I always ask this question. If you treated your clients the way you treat your family, would you have any clients?
No.
And if the answer is no, the reason is to start treating your family like clients. And the reason is because your clients give you a consequence.
Yeah,
they'll give you bad reviews. You'll lose money, whatever the case may be. But in the family, you can yell, scream, and do whatever until one says, "I want a divorce," or the one runs away.
Yeah, very good.
So because we feel that we can do that because of that end of it, and we've seen tremendous shifts. I remember I had a kid go, my client, her son came up to him and go, "Who are you? Where's my mother? Why aren't you screaming at me?" Because she realized then that she can actually help him subconsciously by using certain words of his antidote. She could now have a nice conversation, still quote discipline or guide him in a way, but in certain ways knew that he had to fall in his face, right? I always tell people, when the kids start to walk, did you let them fall on their ass? You did. But you stop them from hitting their head on the cocktail table. There's two different things here. Some people, the helicopter, they don't want to, they're carrying them. Now they're 16 years old and the kids can't walk, right? So you have to find out why your fear, your protection, because there's only two protectors. There's the withdrawal and the over-engaging. And what we found was you go back and forth depending on your saboteur. But when you use your antidote, you immediately go into a neutral way.
Yeah, well, it sounds like the antidote enables the individual to get back into a rational ego state. Because when we're in that emotional state, like the mother yelling at the kid, you get the opposite effect that you're looking for. So it brings you back into that rational state.
Yeah, because they don't realize that at moment that child is not representing themselves. They're representing the thousands of other people that have given that person that attitude, and usually whether it's mom, dad, or siblings or whatever. But as soon as they deal with what's happening in their present, the past is dealt with instantaneously because they're the same thing.
Absolutely.
So, and once they see that, and that's where it empowers them to knowing that there's only one thing to do. There's not 10, there's not 12. There's just one thing to focus on. So if I may give an analogy.
Yeah, sure, please.
So what we talk about is that you ever see the master domino, the domino masters, they push the one domino, it goes, right? The last one hits, and let's say balloons are released. Okay. Well, what's the last thing you see? The balloons.
The balloons gone, yeah.
So what do? We take our Coke methods and do what? We put them on the balloons, not the one domino. So what's easier? Hold down the balloons and stop pushing the domino. And the balloons is your imposter syndrome, your anxiety, your depression, every negative emotion that you feel last. So what we do is we teach people to show that when they push down that saboteur, it creates every negative emotion that you experience. And we prove that. And then when they push down the antidote the opposite way, then they go into inspiration and motivation, and they immediately go into growth. So when you start to release your personal professional power and you start hitting that comfort zone, your saboteur kicks in to protect you. Again, nothing wrong with you. But imagine when you hit that uncomfortable zone and you start to contract, imagine knowing what that is, and then using the antidote immediately, you can now do this.
Absolutely.
The hamster wheel of going back.
Right. So I mean, as a parent, and I'm thinking about the kids, how you met, but through trial and error, I probably over a long period of time have now learned how to react to my oldest son who's got autism, and my middle guy who's got Crohn's disease, and my daughter that hasn't been diagnosed with anything. I have learned to have 3 different management styles, but it took me 30 or 20, well, the oldest one's 21. All those years and frustration and stress that if I had known the antidote for each of the, for my own self-sabotage or even for theirs, it probably would have saved me some frustration. I could see how it could save marriages because I could totally see that, because I know in our situation, when we're working with 2 kids trying to diagnose, by the time we got them where they are, we don't know, we didn't know who each other was anymore. Whereas if we had that antidote, we could have probably worked on ourselves,
Yeah. I mean, I had a guy one time I met a month ago in San Diego, and he calls me one day and he says, I'm calling the lawyer tomorrow. What can you do? What? You can't even work. So we sat down and we made sure that, again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not I don't do that. I'm just helping people to understand them. So we sat down with them and realized, number one, they didn't hate each other. But when they realized they were just protecting themselves from each other within a month, they're still married. Okay. But now you add a couple of children involved. And one of the things was one of the kids, he would sleep in and they couldn't get him up, and the mother would scream from the other room. And I said, with his sequence, that's the last thing you do. You need to do this, this, and this. And when she did it, within the week, he was getting up. It was much easier, and the screaming stopped. So not only do you have the husband-wife aspect of it, you have the children involved, and now you have this whole complex that looks like it's complex, but it's really very simple. We had a coach who didn't have a great relationship with her husband, and within 5 weeks, her relationship really skyrocketed, because not only did she understood her sequence, she understood his, but he never knew she was taking the course.
Oh,
we've helped parents or business owners, whether or not they had clients or whatever, potential clients. Okay, I would ask them a few questions, and then I would ascertain their sequence, and I would tell them exactly what they do, and they would come back going, it worked like a charm. I said, yeah, because this does this, and this is why these two react in the way they do. It's just like compounds, like, sodium chloride will come nicely together, but if you mix two other ones, there's an explosion. So yeah, so that's how much of a science we have, and there's nothing like this in the world. No one else is teaching this, because this is what I have. And I always tell people, if you're always looking for something that's totally new, then we have that, and we guarantee our results. We actually will sit with the people. Not everybody comes, we want to make sure everybody is a candidate. And if they are, we make sure that they're a candidate by talking to them. And then we find out what they're looking for. And then if we can, we actually then say, we will guarantee that. And that's what we do with a money back guarantee. That's
unbelievable. So I understand now how you, for 30 years doing that research and everything, the doctor in front of your name, what degree, what, because you said you used to be in practice. So what did you do prior to having this epiphany?
So I used to be a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner. My specialty was thyroid and autoimmune disease. And during my time with I had very high success rates with autoimmune disease patients, because what we're finding out was that when they had a situation, some type of trigger, they would then use their saboteur, which would then cause them to use their numbing devices, smoking, eating, drinking, whatever, yelling, whatever, going to work and everything else. But once they understood their saboteur and then used their antidote, when the trigger happened, we found that two things happened. Number one, they would lessen their devices, or they would stop it. So therefore, their flare-ups would not be as bad. Now they're more evened out.
So were you still practicing in functional medicine when you determined the antidote?
As chiropractic,
simultaneously doing the research while you were in a practice for function.
Oh yeah. My patients.
I'm saying, okay, good, because I'm not surprised when I asked you what you practiced, because chiropractors and functional medicine doctors, just like more so DOs than MDs, treat the whole human. And so you had an open mind to start to begin with, to isolate this antidote. So all right, so that this makes sense now.
Yep. And then what happened was, if I may, my patients who were business owners were making major breakthroughs in their business, and I never thought about using it in business. So we started working with them, and then I started getting referrals all around the world. I wrote my book, and then 4 years ago, I decided to go from doctor to consultant. So now we do this full time, and I stopped practicing.
Yeah, but we need more like you in the functional medicine space, though.
Well, I do treat, but I do have clients who are functional medicine docs that understand this, and we help them with their clients, with their patients as well.
This is unbelievably fascinating. You know what? You and I are going to have to talk offline, because with the middle guy having Crohn's disease, I know exactly. I had very high success
with Crohn's. Yeah, I would love to have a conversation and guide you to somebody that would help you. But it can be helped.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. I could talk to you forever. Thank God I see you every Tuesday morning. So this is cool. All right. Before we end, I want to ask you two questions.
Okay.
First one is, you have the opportunity and you're sitting down with young Phil, young 7 to 10-year-old Phil, and you want to give him advice about life. What are you going to tell him?
7 and 10?
7 to 10. He's 7, 8, 9, 10 years old.
I would tell them that every experience, whether good or bad, is a benefit for them. And to use this phrase, I wonder what gift I'm getting. So even though it looks bad and everything else, and you'll learn as you look through this, and I want you to become aware of this, is that when you think something's good, it can turn out bad. And if you think of something bad, it can turn out good. So look at things neutrally as best as you can, but see how it benefits with you. And when if it benefits you, then you can move forward and use that and build it for the rest of your life.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right. Switching hats. Now you're sitting down with young Phil, the young businessman, entrepreneur, and you want to give him advice about business. What are you going to tell him?
I'd smack him right now.
I didn't see that.
I love it. Wake up, man.
Oh, gosh.
What is wrong with you? No, I'm kidding. So I would tell him, find somebody who's very successful at what you want.
Yeah.
And go pay them what they want and do exactly what they tell you to do, no matter how much, because that money is going to be way less than you to try to figure it out on your own.
Yeah, that is unbelievable advice, and it's so true. So true. Geez, and I wish people would listen to that. Okay, you know what? The audience certainly grasped the essence of Dr. Phil Agrios. Did I get it right?
Yep.
All right,
yep,
right.
Perfect.
So audience, you are going to want to get in touch with them. First of all, do the QR code, because when you do the QR code and you watch the 13-minute video, there's a little known trait that derails your success. And they'll learn something from that video. So please do that. And I'm going to do it now. You can't see me because I know this is the audio one, but I'm going to go do the got the QR code right here. Yep, there it is. And I'm going to look at it after we get off the phone. All right. Wow. So it says free training for business owners and executives, the little known trait derailing your success and potential income, how one change can lead to significant results. So that unbelievable stuff, Dr. Phil. So guys, you could also go to TranscendNOWmasterclass.com. If you want to get to know Dr. Phil, it's definitely well worth it. He's a great man, great human being. Please keep doing what you're doing. And I have to say, I am grateful for Keegan Schaefer for introducing us. I always love to give credit to people who introduce us.
Absolutely.
I'm grateful you're in my life, my friend. And
same here, Drew.
At minimum, I want to see you every Tuesday morning.
Sounds good.
This has been great. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and have a fun week.
Thanks. You too. Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and give us a review to help others find it. I'd like you to answer this question. Are you living the life you want to live, or are you living the life others want you to live? I'd like you to think about that for a second, because I strongly suggest you live the life you want to live. If you want to learn more about what I stand for and my services and how I'm able to help many men get out of their own way, please go to my website at www.profitcompassion.com. Feel free to also email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Take care of yourself and choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.